Hi guys, my name is Ivo and I'm from mytestedasp.net. First, a little bit about myself. I have been working as a CTO in a large software development team. I have been teaching C# and JavaScript technologies for more than 6 years now, and in my free time I tend to write quite a lot of code. This is my GitHub profile, you may follow me if you like, and most of my projects are open source testing library projects for ASP.NET, whether it's the old framework or the new core one. In my recently I decided to start a YouTube channel about my developing experience because initially I thought that these projects will be easy to create, but frankly speaking I learned quite a lot from them. I needed to read through the ASP.NET Core and Entity Framework Core source codes, and I find quite a lot of useful techniques there. So I decided to start sharing my knowledge, hopefully that people will learn something from me. If you are an ASP.NET Core developer, take a look at my project, you may find it useful, and let's begin. What I decided to show you in this video is one of the most popular project structures in an ASP.NET web application. There are two types of project structures that are really common and are really famous. One of them is folder by type, where you create a folder controllers, a folder models, a folder data, for example, and all of your controllers are in your controllers folder. All of your models are in your models folder, and so on. This is one of the famous approaches, and the other one is folder by feature, where you create a folder for your users, for example, a folder for your articles, a folder for your comments, and so on. Essentially, you create a folder for each feature in your application, and in that folder you create the view, you create the controller, you create the service, and you create everything related to that feature. These are the most common project structures, and now I'm going to show you the first one, and in a future video I'm going to show you the another one. There is no better approach. Both project structures are fine and both give you different kind of pros and cons. So you decide what kind of project structure to follow. If you're using microservices, for example, a project by type, a folder by type project structure is completely fine. If you're building a monolith, the other way around, which is a folder by each feature, is maybe a better suitable approach. Okay, let's create a simple web application, ASP.NET Core. I'm going to create it as block. Of course, it will not be a complete, fully functional block, but it will serve us as a demo to create our project structure. I will choose individual user accounts because I want to have entity framework classes created already, and that's it. Let's hit create. Okay, first what I like to do is I like to clean all my initial files, everything I don't need. I hate having unnecessary usings. I hate having unnecessary comments in my code. So the first thing we need to do is to clean our code and define our code style. That's important. Nobody cares if you put your usings above the namespace or in the namespace. Both are completely fine as long as you're following the same style guide in your project. If you decide to put all your usings inside the namespace, put all your usings inside the namespace in your whole solution. That's the point. It doesn't matter whether it's inside the namespace or outside the namespace. Again, it doesn't matter if your private variables are prefixed with underscore or not. If you decide to, not prefix your private variables and use this everywhere, then use this everywhere but make it consistent. You need to have consistent code, and that's what makes the code quality better. It's not whether your underscores are written or not. It's not about whether your usings are above the namespace or in the namespace. It doesn't matter. Both are fine, both are correct, as long as you're following the same style guide in your whole solution. That makes the project quality better, not where my usings at. So I'm going to remove all unnecessary usings. Additionally, my style guide is always putting the usings inside the namespace, so I'm going to follow that. And also I'm using the shorter syntax. Additionally, sorting the usings by alphabetical order is preferable. Another thing I like to use is to use expression bodies. That's again up to you, but if you decide to use expression bodies in your application, then use it everywhere. I will remove this comment and I will make this code look a bit more properly formatted. I also like to put extra empty lines where it seems logically to put an extra empty lines. For example, here I'm separating the data services from the identity services. That's why I'm going to put an empty line here. I'm not going to put an empty line here because here I'm adding controllers and pages, which is essentially the MVC framework. So logically speaking, these two are related, and the data layer and the authentication layer, they are not so related, so I'm going to not link them, and I'm going to add a single line and empty line here. Of course, that's a matter of opinion. I'm just giving my opinion about this approach, and I'm not forcing you to do anything like me. If you, for example, prefer to use your usings outside of the namespace, do that. That's completely okay. If you think that the authentication layer and the data layer are coupled in some way because the authentication layer uses the DB context, then don't put the empty line here. It doesn't matter. As long as you're following your rules and these rules are consistent, your code will be fine. Okay, then I'm going to remove this comment too, and this one empty line after each curly bracket. If you're not familiar with the empty line rule, if you have a closing curly bracket, always put an empty line except when after that closing curly bracket is another closing curly bracket. So I should put an empty line here because after this curly bracket I don't have another one. I should not put an empty line here because after this curly bracket I have another one. As you can see, if you follow the rule, you have an empty line even here, and that's by default here, so the rule is followed. Okay, what I also like to do, I like to introduce an infrastructure folder infrastructure folder for classes and namespaces which are helping my code look better. For example, I always create application builder extensions to extract some of the logic here. For example, if I create application builder extensions, that should be a static class. I would like to move this code to a separate one because it looks prettier. For example, if I add another endpoint map, for example, controller route, as you can see, the new way of adding routes is by map controller routes. If you are not familiar with this method, I suggest you to read the official documentation where the Microsoft team has showed us how to migrate 2.2 ASP.NET Core application to 3.0. Actually, it's not very difficult. They changed one or two methods. JSON.NET is optional now. They use default implementation which comes from the Microsoft directly, and we no longer call add MVC. We need to call add controllers with views or add controllers depending of whether we need views or not. Endpoints are again use endpoints. The routing system is new. The old routing system still works correctly, like this, use MVC, routes map route, but it's considered legacy, so you should migrate it. Okay, so for example, if I decide to add another route here, which is some custom route, and as my application grows, I will have quite a lot of routes set up here, and I would like to extract that. I prefer the startup class to be a bit more cleaner. So to extract that, I will just need to say, okay, public static application builder, and add this code. I'll name it use controller endpoints, for example. You can name it whatever you like. This application builder app, this method just registers all my routes. Or we can leave it like this, it doesn't matter. So I'll just go use endpoints, and I will need block infrastructure, which, as I said, needs to be in the shorter using syntax. So my method here became a bit more cleaner and it's more readable. If I had a lot of routes here registered, that method would not be following the solid principles directly. It will be doing too much things, and now currently what it does is calling external middleware, and each middleware knows its task. It looks better in my opinion like this. We can extract this code too if we want. But let's create that too. I will create another method, public static application builder. The point here is not to copy my code directly. The point here is to learn how to create higher quality code and how I think when I try to design my code and when I decide what to extract. So my decision making here is, okay, is this method looking good? Does it look good? It's fine, but can I make it better? Yes, I can. I can extract the exception handling in a separate method, and this one will be with one if statement less, which is quite cleaner. So I'm going to do that. Again, do I want all my routes here? They will become 5, 10, 20. There will be a lot, and this class will become a lot more bigger. Do I want all my routes here, or do I want them to be extracted? So I decide to extract them. That's the idea here. Not to copy my exact architecture, but to learn how I design my applications and how I decide what to extract and where. Okay, so we have infrastructure code, so I'm going to create use exception handling. I'm going to get the app variable, and I'm going to get the iWebhost environment. And the code will be copy pasted. Cool. We need that extension, and we need to return the app. Okay, let's put the usings inside the namespace because that's the rule we follow, and then let's use .use exception handling. I need to pass the environment variable. Okay, great. So I can do that for configuration, for example. For example, I can extract configuration extensions. That may be too far for you. That's okay. I'm just showing examples here. If you want, extract whatever you like. If you think that we are extracting way too much code, then don't do it. It doesn't matter as long as it sounds logical to you, and as long as you're completely consistent, that's fine. I'm trying to remove the magic strings as much as possible in my code, so I'm going to extract this one too. I'm going to say, okay, I need configuration extensions. I will make a static class here, and I want to public static string get default. This configuration. The method will be named get default connection string. Default connection string. And I'll just copy Okay, let's move the using here. Always be consistent, guys. That's the most important part of your developing experience, to be consistent and to improve your code. That makes the code look cleaner. So I'm not going to use a magic string now. I have the get default connection string, which is making my code look a bit more cleaner. Okay, that's for now. In this startup class, I'm going to make this one better. I'm going to remove all usings. I'm going to use expression bodies because Microsoft uses them here, but does not uses them in the main method. I don't know why. Okay, I'm going to follow the same convention where the arrow is below the method name. It's not the right convention. You may use the arrow here. It doesn't matter as long it's consistent. So I am always using my arrows here, so let's do it like this. Cool, that can be also an expression body, so let's do it like this. Okay, great. Next, I would like to rename my application DB context, so I'm going to create it and rename it to block DB context. I will remove all the usings here and I will now take a look at my models, which should be here. The migrations classes are auto-generated, so it's not needed to move the usings here, but if you want to be completely consistent, do it. They are auto-generated, but they are auto-generated once. So this migration here will be the same every time you use it, so it's a good idea to follow your conventions here. Good, and what's left is the home controller. I should clean it. Good. From what I can see, this logger variable is not used, so I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to use expression bodies here, here, and here. Okay, I believe we cleaned the whole project and the project is now ready for some more extractions. I will extract all controllers in a separate projects, all data related projects too, all data related classes too. For now the infrastructure will not be moved since this infrastructure is only for the web application. It's not about the services. I will create a service layer on top of my data layer to use it as an abstraction and to extract the business logic there. But for now we're good to go. This is part 1 of this video series. We only did the cleaning, so we only did the more boring stuff, but in part 2 of this video we will extract the next we will extract more projects. We will include AutoMapper. We will create a sample article data class, and I will show you the best way to use service models, form models, and view models, and I believe it will be done. But for now, let me show you the sponsors of my video. That's Softuni and Smart IT. You may take a look at their sites, and you may take a look at my projects at GitHub, because I'm currently searching for backers and sponsors on Patreon. So if you like this content, if you like my lessons, if you like my projects, and if you like what I do, consider supporting me. Or if um, if your company is looking for more exposure here and there, it may become a sponsor, whether on Patreon or on Open Collective. It doesn't matter. Some people or companies already did that, and I am very happy with them. And that's pretty much it. This project is downloaded, like all packages are downloaded more than 2 million times, so I guess the exposure is good enough, and I will be extremely thankful if you decide to help in whatever way possible. So if you like this video, hit the like button and leave a comment on, for example, what kind of videos would you like for me to include in my future for my future topics. And if you believe a colleague of yours will learn something from this channel, show it to him. Thank you, and I'll see you in part 2 of this video, where I will be separating this project into multiple ones.